This video is part of a series of video instructions on the BioGrace greenhouse gas calculation tool. This is instruction 2.6, use of previous and partial calculation results. Actually, there are two BioGrace tools. There's BioGrace 1 for biofuels and BioGrace 2 for electricity, heat and cooling from biomass. The instruction will show the BioGrace 2 Excel tool, but can also be used for BioGrace 1, as in the BioGrace 1 Excel tool the calculations are made in exactly the same way. Calculation sheets of the BioGrace tool allow that greenhouse gas calculations are made for part of the bioenergy pathway and after verification are used as input in a new calculation for the rest of the bioenergy pathway. These inputs can take into account individual steps or multiple steps. Please note that for biomass in BioGrace 2, in case the final energy carrier is converted to electricity, heat or cooling, the sheet final conversion only has been created for companies that buy ready-to-use energy carriers and transform them into final energy. This sheet will allow you to calculate the greenhouse gas emission reduction. Instructions on this are given in a separate video instruction. The document BioGrace calculation rules contains specific calculation rules which should be followed while using the result from previous and partial greenhouse gas calculations. General information and requirements when doing such modifications are: the results of the previous calculation shall be expressed in grams CO2 equivalent per kilogram of feedstock. Changing such a value will override all values and calculations in that step. Changes shall also be indicated in the result module at the top of the sheet to make the modification more transparent, which is done as to facilitate the work of verifiers looking at your actual calculation. In this instruction I will show you how this is done. There are two different kinds of values that can be entered. One or more unallocated results for individual steps. One result for multiple steps. I will show you how this is done in the tool using the pathway wood pellets briquettes from stem wood. In case of unallocated results for one or more individual steps, option 1, you have to enter the results in the cells with white background color in column N for the corresponding step. The unit of the result provided is in gram CO2 equivalent per kilogram of stem wood. This could happen in practice to a company responsible for transport and shipping of stem wood, which gets stem wood for which a calculation has already been made and verified. Please note that in this example there is no land use change and no improved agricultural management. Land use change and improved agricultural management are considered separate steps within the pathway and would lead to a multiple step approach. I will come to that in a moment. To use the result for the cultivation and harvesting of stem wood, you have to perform the following two steps. First, enter the cultivation and harvesting data. In this calculation sheet, this data can be found in cell N51. After selecting this cell, a help box occurs explaining the consequences of changing the input value and which steps have to be taken. Let's change this value in, for instance, 50 grams CO2 equivalent. Note that in column N you should change only data in the cells with white background color. After this, go to the results section at the top of the pathway. For reasons of verification, you have to indicate in column E that an individual result from a previous calculation has been inserted. When you select cell E9, this help box appears, which explains the purpose of this cell and how to select the right value within the drop-down list, here. Change the value in cell E9 to individual result from previous calculation using the drop-down list like this. As you can see, Selection causes the changed result line to become orange colored in columns A until F. The next example is about the same pathway, but now I will explain how to use one combined result for multiple steps. In this case, there is a calculation result that includes all the emissions that occur from the cultivation and harvesting step here until the transport of wood chips step down here. The unit of the result provided is a gram CO2 equivalent per kilogram of wood chips. This could happen in practice to a company which produces pellets from wood chips. To make the calculations, you have to perform several steps. First, enter the combined result in the cell with white background color in column N for the last of the multiple steps. In this case in cell N95 here, since transport of wood chips is the last step in the combined result. Again, the help box occurs after selecting this cell, explaining about the consequences of changing this value. Then enter the value 0 in the cells with white background color in column N for all the previous steps that are included in the combined result. This is cell N79 for chipping of stem wood, cell N65 for transport of stem wood, and cell N51 for the cultivation and harvesting. Next, you go to the results section at the top of the pathway. For reasons of verification, you have to indicate in cells E9, E11, E14 and E15 that a combined result from a previous calculation has been inputted. You can do so by using the drop-down list like I explained before. Note that, as already mentioned before, land use change, EL, and improved agricultural management, ESCA, are considered to be steps different from cultivation. Because of this, the combination of cultivation plus land use change and also the combination cultivation plus improved agricultural management are considered to be multiple steps. If applicable, you also have to indicate in row E for EL and for ESCA when a combined result from a previous calculation has been inserted. Note that in case a co-product is formed in one of the steps within the combined result, an extra step is needed. This is the case, for instance, in the palm kernel meal pathway in the BioGrace 2-axle tool. You have to set the allocation factor for this step to 100% towards the main product and 0% to the co-product. For this, you have to enter the value 100 for the energy carrier in the allocation factors box, which you can find here on the top of the sheet at the right, and enter 0% to the co-products.